Welcome to the Explainer, everyone! Today we're tearing down a huge financial trap. It's the ultimate paradox of our modern age, the illusion of being rich versus the reality of true wealth. We see it literally every single day, right? But we rarely stop to actually figure out how it works. Well, by the time we wrap up today, you are going to look at money, status, and your own financial goals in a completely different light.
Picture this for a second. You've got someone pulling in 300 grand a year. On paper, they sound incredibly successful, right? But the reality behind closed doors is that they are totally drowning in debt. Then, on the flip side, you have someone making a much more modest $80,000 a year, and boom, they're a millionaire before their 40th birthday. One of these people looks rich, but the other actually is. Most people think being rich and being wealthy mean the exact same thing, but honestly, they aren't even close.
It really all boils down to this one simple truth. Rich is what people see, wealth is what people don't. Seriously, I want you to anchor that thought in your mind right now. That single truth is the ultimate dividing line between people who are endlessly stressed out about money and those who sleep perfectly soundly at night.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, rich versus wealthy. Then, the fragility of rich, followed by the quiet power of wealth. After that, we'll unpack the lifestyle inflation trap, and finally wrap it all up with applause versus freedom. Let's get into it.
Starting right off with Section 1, Rich versus Wealthy, defining the modern illusion. What does looking successful actually mean in today's fast-paced culture?
Well, when society says rich today, it is almost entirely focused on income. It's all about your spending power right in this very moment. It's about projecting this hyper-successful outward image to the world around you. It's loud, it's flashy, and it absolutely demands to be seen.
You know the exact vibe I'm talking about here. The brand new Rolex, the shiny BMW parked out front, head-to-toe designer clothes, always snagging the newest iPhone the day it drops, and renting this massive luxury apartment. But here's the catch. Behind all of those flashy visible status symbols is usually a giant mountain of hidden credit card debt that is secretly keeping the whole illusion alive.
And that leads us straight into a pretty terrifying reality in Section 2, the fragility of rich. When the income stops, what happens then?
3 months. That is the absolute terrifying reality of how long it takes for a rich person, someone leveraged to the max just to keep up appearances, to lose absolutely everything if their paycheck disappears. The whole house of cards just completely caves in, because that lifestyle requires a massive, non-stop flow of cash just to stay afloat.
We're seeing this fragility everywhere lately, right? It's deeply baked into modern flex culture. You see paychecks completely vanishing just 5 days after hitting the bank account. Whole lifestyles are being floated by buy now, pay later apps like Klarna. It's a totally financed existence. I mean, you probably know someone living exactly like this right now, just incredibly stressed out, frantically paddling underwater to keep up an image that is fundamentally fragile.
So let's take a breath and completely change the energy here. Moving on to Section 3, the quiet power of wealth. Changing the energy. This is where we actually find some peace of mind. While being rich is all about what you can show off, being wealthy is a totally different ballgame. Wealth is a status built purely on ownership. It's built on having your time back and having true freedom instead of just looking the part. Wealth means having options, flexibility, and the power to dictate how you spend your days without that awful cloud of financial panic hanging over your head.
Now, the funny thing about real wealth, it honestly isn't flashy at all. It's actually wonderfully boring. Wealthy people are throwing their money into index funds. They are buying rental properties. They're just sitting there watching their savings quietly grow year after year. They focus on quietly owned assets. Nobody's slapping a giant luxury logo on an index fund, right? It doesn't scream for attention, but it is working tirelessly for you in the background.
Which brings us to a massive rule of thumb you absolutely have to remember. This is literally a game changer. Wealthy people buy things that pay them back. Rich people buy things that need to be fed. Think about that for a second. The wealthy buy assets that actively put cash back into their pockets. The rich, they buy liabilities. Massive houses, luxury cars, designer gear, things that constantly demand more money for maintenance, insurance, taxes, and crazy high interest. They're basically pets that constantly need to be fed.
Okay, so if the math is really that simple, why do so many people completely fail to build wealth? Let's dive into Section 4 to hit the emotional core of this explainer. The lifestyle inflation trap and why so many get stuck.
This right here is the classic rich trap in action. It is so common. Notice how, as someone's income goes up, their spending skyrockets right alongside it. They get a huge raise at work and boom, they instantly funnel that new money into a fancier car, a swankier apartment, overpriced dinners, and a bunch of new subscriptions. Every single raise just turns into a lifestyle upgrade instead of a wealth-building asset.
Let's do a quick rapid-fire comparison. The person obsessed with looking rich is cruising around in a shiny leased car and wearing a designer belt. Meanwhile, the actually wealthy person is driving a reliable, paid-off used car and building an ETF portfolio. One rents a luxury penthouse, the other quietly owns assets. One is online flexing invisible borrowed money, while the other has actual invisible money compounding quietly in the bank. Night and day, right?
Now, let me just pause here for a second because I want to be super clear. There is absolutely nothing wrong with having nice things. We are definitely not here to shame luxury. Enjoying the fruits of your hard work is awesome. The problem only kicks in when you buy the appearance of wealth before you've built the actual wealth. The danger is skipping the hard work just to go buy the costume.
And that perfectly sets up our final and honestly most profound point today. Section 5, Applause versus Freedom, the Psychology of the Flex. Why do we keep falling for this trap?
Deep down, here is the psychological truth. Most people don't actually want wealth. Crazy, right? But what they really want is the social proof, the likes and the validation that comes with looking wealthy. But chasing that never-ending validation comes with a huge price tag. You are literally sacrificing true freedom, peace, and a life free of constant money stress.
You really have to stop and ask yourself who you are actually doing this for. Looking rich impresses strangers at a stoplight or random people on the internet. But building wealth, that protects your future. One gets you a few seconds of fleeting applause, and the other secures lifelong freedom. It's basically a choice between prioritizing the opinions of people you don't even know or prioritizing the peace and safety of your future self.
And let's be real, our environment right now makes this so much harder. Social media aggressively trains you to look rich long before you actually become wealthy. It is a total algorithmic illusion. But remember what we talked about. Real wealth is usually incredibly boring while it's being built. In fact, a lot of the time, the people looking the absolute richest on your feed are the ones furthest away from actual financial freedom.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one big question, and I want you to be completely honest with me here. Would you rather look rich for 5 years or be wealthy for life? Drop your answer down in the comments. Let's get a conversation going about breaking this cycle and choosing actual freedom over a temporary flex. Thank you so much for hanging out and learning with me today, and I'll see you in the next one.